don't really know if anyone watches videos about the old Holden motors anymore, but anyway, if you like tinkering, sometimes I'll take the rocker cover off. This is a blue 202 motor. That's a Holden 6-cylinder 3.3 litre, and I'll just have a look, just check everything for laughs, and yeah, I'll pull everything out, just check the push rod length. Sometimes they wear, definitely get lifter wear, and I like to check the bottom of the lifters. So these are hydraulic lifters, and on occasion you get wear, or sometimes I like to pull the lifters apart and just clean everything and make sure there's no shit in the orifice of the thing so that it can pump up correctly, which I'm in the process of pulling these apart. So the easiest way to open these up, there's just a C-clip in the top of the lifter. Some people get a bolt. Okay, sometimes I put this in the vise, and I put the head of the screw into this, and then I'll shut the vise on it just to decompress it a little bit so that you can actually push this down. But this one's, you can already push it down, so I'll just get you can use a seal pick, but I've just got an old screwdriver that's a bit hard to see. Bit of an old screwdriver that's just ground down to that sort of shape, basically like a seal pick. And I'll just push down with a lifter and then pry out the C-clip, which will go flying across the workshop. And this one didn't, which is good. But that clip retains everything. I've actually got, because there's like a hydraulic lock, I guess you would call it, holding everything in. So I've just got a magnet here that I keep a rag on, just so the iron filings don't get into the lifter, and I just pull it out like that, just so I've got enough purchase to actually grab it. And then so you've got on these lifters, there's quite a few different variations, but on these ones you've just got a cap that's got a little channel cut out to let the oil through, and then after that you've got this piston. These probably aren't the correct technical terms, but that's what I call them. Now inside here you'll see there's a ball bearing at the bottom, and at the bottom of that ball bearing there's a top hat. So I usually get my my crudely made home tool and just stick it in and just pry the top hat out, and just be careful because under the top hat there is a spring and a ball bearing, and that is essentially what pumps the lifter up. So that came from the shallow side of the piston. There's a deep side and a shallow side. The deep side's got nothing in it on this one. And yeah, I'll pull this out, pull the ball bearing out, pull the spring out. Sometimes you need to pick the spring out as well. And that's it. I'll run all that stuff. I'll put some, I can use degreaser or brake clean or whatever, and I'll just clean like the sides of the top hat. I'll spray out these to get all the shit out of them, especially under here. You quite often get build up under here, so I'll like get something there and just clean that out and then spray it. You can see there's like a little bit of shit. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, you just spray all them out and then put it all back together. So yeah, just put the, I'm going to put the piston down for a sec. So spring, ball bearing, you want to make sure there's no grit, one little piece of grit on that ball bearing, and it won't pump the lifter up properly. And then yeah, pretty much just shove it back in here. When it goes in, you'll sort of feel it, it clicks. That clicks and then it's back in. And you can see why no grit is important, is because if that ball bearing doesn't seal against the body of the piston, then it's going to let oil through, which you want it to let oil through, but you want it to pump up, so that needs to seal once it's full. Got your spring just goes in to the lifter. Just double check, I'll just double check that top hat's in properly, because if it isn't, that's going to be problems. Yep, that's in. The spring won't sit centered when it first goes in. It will when it's standing up vertical, but I'm trying to tilt it to show the camera. That just goes in, falls straight in there. And then this cap, you just want to spray out the, check that you've got clear flow between the top and the side, so that, because the push rod essentially sits in this and seals, and it'll the oil is supposed to push up and through this so that your rocker gets oil up the other end. So if there's no clear path on this side, then the oil won't go up to the rocker. So I'm going to spray that out now. I just get the stick that comes with the CRC and just spray it, just shove it straight in there and it'll jet out of here. And then pretty much just, you can see there's a silver lip around here, and that's because it's sealing hard against the piston. So essentially what happens is the oil comes in through here, goes down to the bottom, and then the top hat, when there's no oil in the piston, it'll let the ball bearing will let the go down and let some oil in there, and it'll, as it continues to pump up and down motion, it sucks the oil up into the piston. Once the piston is full of oil, this is essentially the relief that lets the oil out, and then it'll continue pumping, and it'll piss oil out of here up into the push rod, and then that goes up into the top of the head where the rockers are, so that your rockers get lubricated too. But if you do it all right, it's a bit OCD, I guess, but I like to line up the hole on the cap with the hole on the side. It doesn't have any effect with operation, but it's just how I do it. And you should essentially be able to push that piston down with very little force. And then you know that everything's pumping and it's free and it's not jammed up. And then all I do is get another push rod, and then I just shove this C-clip in, and that's it. So that's all back together, and that should push in quite easily. Another thing is, a lot of people soak their lifters. So if you want, you just pop these in a bucket of oil, engine oil, overnight, and you can pump them up yourself. But a lot of people prefer to bleed them before putting them in the car, because if you chuck that in and it is pumped up, I mean, that's essentially supposed to be so that there's no valve train adjustment on the rocker. So if there is, you know, there's a lot more variance that can like be on the push rod and on the rocker end. So yeah, if these are pumped up full, that provides no suspension for the push rod, and that could mean bending something else further along the line. So yeah, I leave mine empty, chuck them in, and then when you first run the car, just run it at flat out, like, oh, not flat out, but like 2,500 revs for 5 or 10 minutes, and then it'll just pump all these up and take all the slack out of the valve train. So yeah, that's pretty much the lifter back together. Most of the lifters are fine. This one here isn't. It's got a concave shape going on. It's more evident when you feel it than you can see on camera, but it has got a slight dish on it, and even a couple of thou might upset things when it goes to open. So I know it's all kinds of wrong, but this, I don't really care too much about this engine, and I have got some new lifters on the way, as well as some other goodies. So this is just so I can still drive it while I'm waiting for parts. This isn't something I'd recommend doing, but it's what I'm doing anyway. And that is, I'm going to weld onto the top of the lifter, and then flatten off. And there's no precision in this. I'm just going to weld it and grind it, and then smooth it off. It's definitely not something I'd encourage anyone else to do, but it'll get me, well, it'll be a little bit of peace of mind while I'm just driving it around for the next week, rather than having the valve not opening properly. Because just last week I went on quite a long drive, and what's happening is when this gets hot, when the engine gets hot, the car's missing. It's like running on 5 cylinders. Initially I thought it was like leads, coil, spark plugs, that sort of thing, because it's basically the same feeling as when you unplug one lead. It's just running on 5 cylinders. But now that I've checked this out, you can pretty much guarantee it's just this one lifter not opening the valve completely. But anyway, I'm going to muck around with this and then chuck it back in. And when the new parts come next week, I'll put a new lifter in. It's just to use for this week. It's basically a bought one. It's good as new. Why even order a new one? Nah, I'm sure I'm going to get plenty of hate for this, but yeah, I just popped a little bit of weld on it. She's pretty good. She's pretty flat. It's just to use for this week until the new parts come. So anyway, I'll chuck it back in with the rest of the group, put the guts back in it, put it back in the car, and see how it goes. So putting everything back together, and you know, I love a challenge. Anyway, that's already out. I snapped it and it was flush, but luckily I got it with the vice grips. Sometimes you have to weld something on and wind it out, but got pretty lucky this time. The next question is, do I have a bolt to replace that? I'll give her a bit of a start up, and I expect the lifters to be very loud at the start, and then we'll see what happens. Should quieten out pretty quickly. 10 to 15 seconds, everything should pump up. There's a little bit of noise there. I'll take it for a drive and see how it goes. He's really quietening down since I took it for a drive now. Not much lifter noise at all, which is good. But yeah, I'll be keen to get a new set in, some new push rods, lifters, maybe even a new cam. We'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching.